Well, let's get talking now. Nigeria's borrowing binge and a ballooning debt profile has continued to serve as a source of worry and concerns for both local and international partners as the country's debt position worsened in the first quarter of this year, with debt stock rising by 2.04 trillion naira to hit 41.6 trillion naira from 39.56 trillion naira recorded as of December 2021. With Nigeria's debt on the rise and putting the country at fiscal risk amid constant decline in oil production, coupled with the challenge of very low revenues that has failed to keep pace with the growing expenditure, the need to explore alternative financing options such as expanding the tax net for more revenue, increasing internally generated revenues, public-private partnership, and attracting more foreign direct investments cannot be overemphasized. Well, let's talk more about this and the state of the economy amid rising debt profile. I'm being joined via Zoom from Abuja by a research, economic, and banking analyst, Dr. Sunday Oluyemi. Thank you so much, Dr. Oluyemi. It's your first time on the show. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, my brother. How are you?
Very well.
How's work?
Yes, let's start with this ballooning debt. If I go through the figures, we are doing about 39 or 41.6 trillion, I beg your pardon, at the moment. That's the last figures from the Debt Management Office. Do an overview. We've heard different views about this. But how sustainable is this looking at what we face at this time?
Thank you. Well, at least based on your analysis, the debt profile of Nigeria has been a source of worry. Although I don't think it should have been a worry, assuming that those debts at least are backed by productive ventures that can pay back the loan. You have said a lot of things in terms of sustainability. So when you talk about sustainability, that's the ability of the country to be able to meet the present, at least, and the current future obligation without having to recourse to borrowing. And when you look at the data, honestly, with all the facts on ground, the sustainability calls to question. Although you want to measure with the debt GDP ratio. If you look at our debt GDP ratio, at least compared to other jurisdictions, it seems to be at least at about 27.3%, or maybe DMO will call it 20. I think about 25.2%. Even though low compared to where we want to go, but the problem with the issue of that problem is that we really have ventures that will be able to pay back this loan, assuming we want to pay back now. And that's the issue. That's the issue about sustainability. And you have talked about a lot of things that we need to do. So for sustainability, at least you have to look at your capacity to repay back this loan as soon as possible. Assuming the creditors want their money, how soon can you get this money without having to recourse to borrowing? That's a major issue. And that's at least the fact that at least we'll talk about the issue of sustainability. I know DMO has done a lot of study to at least to look at debt sustainability and analysis. They've been able to look at various scenarios. To us, the benchmark that we're even looking at least we're looking at 40% debt GDP ratio. Getting to that level is a problem. Like I said, there are a lot of things that need to be done for you to be able, because like when you talk of the sustainability of the debt, we have the ability to pay back now. If assuming the owner of the debt want their money back, and without having to recourse to borrowing, that's a major issue at least that need to be looked at in terms of sustainability issue. By the nature of the Nigerian economy, at least is a blessed land, and we have a lot of untapped resources. We have talked about the issue of having to wipe the tax base and having to at least to do more of a domestically generated revenue. You have the agricultural sector. People have been talking over the years at least for the need to diversify the economy. Oil has always been our mainstay, at least has been the mono product that we have been looking at. And even when you look at that oil, there has been issue with, in fact, we have not been able to meet the OPEC quota. Our OPEC quota is about 1.830 million barrels per day. But when you look at the statistics, we have only been able to get 1.6. And when you look at, if you take that 1.6 from 1.8, you will see a deficit of about 200,000 barrels. If you multiply that 200,000 barrels by at least by the current price per barrel, and you multiply by the exchange rate, whether you use the central bank exchange rate, you see that every day, as we seem to be losing about almost 4.99 billion naira every day. So those are the issues that we need to look at. In terms of sustainability, and assuming we have those money have been used at least to finance productive social ventures that are capable of repaying back the loan. We have been talking about the issue of sustainability. Like I said, when you look at the GDP, debt GDP ratio, we seem not to be doing badly, but having a low debt GDP ratio does not mean that at least we should say and say we are comfortable. That's my take.
Great one. It's a good way to start the discussion, but I am also concerned about moves aimed at, of course, improving internally generated revenue. Many say this is the time for even states to look inwards, as well as the federal government, promote non-oil exports, and of course look for ways to raise more funds internally. We can't just continue to borrow. What do you make of this? Are we sincere about making this happen as a country?
I agree with you totally. I will not say that there has been effort here and there, at least to see how we can improve the non-oil sector, improve the non-oil sector, at least for the sector to be able to add more. If you look at Nigerian economy, there are a lot of minerals deposited here and there. And again, apart from the mineral sector, let's look at the agricultural sector. When we are growing up, the mainstay of Nigerian economy, at least we grew up to know, is agriculture. But over the years, because of the coming of crude oil, we seem to have neglected that sector. Although in recent times there has been effort, but those efforts have not been able to yield positive because of a lot of things. People have not been able to. There are some areas where people have not been able to go to farm because of insurgency and insecurity here and there. So effort to at least to improve has to be a holistic one, and which will take. I'm not saying with respect to insecurity. I think the military and at least the government are doing their best. But they need to hype up their skill with respect to at least how they tackle that, because you see a lot of people that in the. I just came back from at least from the village, and people at least complain that at least to go to the farm is a problem because of insecurity here and there. So all effort to do that one has to be at least involving both the federal and the state and even the local government. So at least at the end of the day, we need to do more about improving the non-oil sector, because that's area that can even generate a more added value for the economy. We have there are nations that live only on tourism. There are a lot of tourism sector in Nigeria that we at least will have been a very good source of revenue generating in all the states. I don't think there's any state in Nigeria that doesn't have a very good tourist center that can generate that can bring in more money. But the government at the local level and the government level needs to do more to see how they can harness, rather than just relying on coming to Abuja at the end of the month to share the monthly revenue allocation. Then we need to do more. But like I said, a lot of things need to how to improve the business environment. That's a critical something. Then you talk about the issue of tax base. There are a lot of people that are not on the tax network, and there is the government has to do a lot of the federal and land revenue has to do a lot. I'm not saying there have not been at least there have been some improvement in terms of the revenue they generate, but they can do more, because there is no state, there is nowhere you go that you don't see all this business. But I don't think most of them are in the tax network, and that's a major issue. And again, efficiency in the way we use the resources. The money you borrow, if there is no efficiency in the way you use it, at least that could be a problem. Issue of corruption. There are a lot of things that have been done to tackle corruption, but at least they still need to do more. Thank you.
Now, let's talk about major projects, because many will say government cannot fund major projects except they borrow to fund these projects. And many will say it's not really the debt stock, but what's the debt being used to fund or finance? So what other funding mechanisms or opportunities or options do we have as a country if we don't want to borrow?
Well, there is no. At least I don't totally agree with people that say we should not borrow. I mean, people borrowing at least is part of if you don't have enough resources to finance your project, you can go borrowing. I could recollect when we were growing up, even to finance school fees and to do some project at home. People, even our forefathers, they borrow money, but the genuineness to pay and to use that money, because you have said it, you have feed the thing on the head. At least to use that money for productive, not for consumption, to finance consumption, that at least that will not be able to pay back the money. But if you talk about alternative sources, at least now at the stage where we are, those alternative sources, at least can be, at least like I said, have been hampered by a lot of happening in the system. I mean, the issue of the insecurity and the insurgents in the land. If you look at the oil sector, why are we not able to meet the quota given to us by OPEC because of one thing or the other? Oil theft, which need to be addressed. Those are the kind of, there are some loopholes in the system that need to be addressed. If we are able to address those loopholes, we'll get enough revenue. And like I said, there is no, the time has come for us to remove the over dependence on the oil sector. Agricultural sector is a major something. Will give us, agriculture will give you food, will give you job, and will give you at least even at least feed into your industry. But if you have a lot of industry, at least there are some of those things that has to go into industry, and which all those things are bound to generate more employment for the system and generate more income. So we need to look at the agricultural sector again. I would say at least for some time when we talk about this Lagos Binikebi rice, lake rice, was thought the thing will continue. At least we should be able to produce to feed ourselves in this country rather than depending on the imported. And there are a lot of things that we need to do away with in terms of at least importation. At least Nigeria is, and we seems to be at least we seems to depend too much on consuming foreign goods. And at the end of what are we doing? We are, exporting job and importing the unemployment, and which is not too good for the system. So we need to look at the agricultural sector. We need to look at least the efficiency in the use of resources that we have. Expand the tax base. There are a lot of people that need to be brought into the tax base. And again, when you borrow, use that money for productive ventures that will be able to at least be able to pay back. There are a lot of infrastructural deficiency in the system. Even where people have been able to go to farm, you travel on some areas, at least you see the amazing, most of the trailers, they fall on they carry goods. Most of them, they fell off the road because of the bad deplorable situation of the road. So those are the kind of things that government needs to look at. If we're able to, honestly, like I said, Nigeria is a well-blessed nation. And at least, and I believe that's why I just look at it. The outlook looks good, but there are a lot of things that need to be done so that at the end of the day, able to have a debt. You borrow money, at least there is no problem. Once your economy is doing well, and there are people who will even be willing to give you money because they know they will collect their money back. But it's only when the economy is not doing well and there is no, they look at the way you use your resources, they look at the problem on the ground. That's where people get scared and they may not want to borrow you. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Almost finally, considering global issues that we face, we are not insulated from all of these challenges. I'm talking about global challenges. Some will say cost of borrowing might also be on the high side, and servicing this debt, which you identified, is also something that is worrisome. Considering the global challenge, anything to worry about as we move on close to, of course, moving towards an election year?
Well, we are moving towards an election, which is going to be another challenging period. There are a lot of things you have talked about the cost of borrowing because it's because of the exchange rate. You know, at least there was a time there are some debt that were borrowed at a lower rate, and now you have the CBN rate at least over 400 naira. So to pay back would be a major issue because you have to be looking, and there are no resources to really back up the payback. The challenges ahead, we are part of, at least because when you look at even the issue of insecurity is a global problem, and we cannot insulate ourselves from it. The scarcity of foreign exchange is a global issue. We cannot insulate ourselves from it, but we need to brace up. Even though there are problems in the other area, at least we can see how there is a way we can come back home and see how we can tidy up at least our own domestic environment, so that some of all this, there are a way by which you can insulate yourself from some of these challenges. If there are problems in the foreign exchange, assuming we're able to produce well, the agricultural sector, and we're able to attract people who invest in our land, if you have a very conducive business environment, some of all those, at least there are ways you can insulate yourself from some of those challenges. But there are some that will definitely are already there, and we have to learn how to live with it, and at least with appropriate policy and appropriate decision from the appropriate quarter. I think everything will be fine. The election, at least we'll look at the election, we'll begin to wait. By the time we begin to see the action of the actors, their manifesto, and at least the way they conduct themselves, because at least it could be scaring for investors. At least I know that at least based on the INEC promises here and there, that there won't be any problem. But if the actors, they play their game very well and there is no issue, when we may not be, there may not be anything, but there will still be some a little skepticism about the system, waiting to see how the process will go and the outcome of the election. So that's my take.
Before I let you go, Dr. Oluyemi, are you worried about any form of recession that could come up? It could be global, it could be domestic, it could be just Nigeria, but what we have or figures in shows that it's very likely that there could be a global recession following all that is on ground. If that happens, what do you think? What impact will it have on Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation?
At least, even we are yet to come out fully from the impact of COVID. And there are still some challenges here and there.
Russia and Ukraine war is there.
So the Ukraine war, at least everything at least going on there. Apart from Ukraine war, there are other areas where there are crises. And since Nigeria is we are not an island, we belong to the world economy generally, at least. So definitely some of them will affect us. There are a lot of things that at least based on importation, at least that we get from all those areas, and because of crisis. But I would just say that at least there are certain things that at least if we're able to insulate, if we're able to do certain things, we may be able to insulate ourselves a little bit from because we thank God Nigeria we are not at war, and we are not. It's not as if we are supporting anybody, at least in terms of that war. But if we are able to at least do the needful, I think we may be able to. There will be recession. At least there is always that circle, and the only thing is that you need to look at it. And I believe that those people both in the fiscal and the monetary authority will be looking at the figures which we have rolled out, and they will be able to see how they can put in place appropriate. Because that's why they are there. To have the monetary policy committee, and at least they look at what is happening, and they're able to come out with appropriate policy that will be able to mitigate some of all those challenges. There will be a recession, but at least your recession comes and recession goes. But it depends on the way you plan for it, and that's my take.
Beautiful stuff
COVID
there.
Is still.
I must thank you
COVID
so much.
Is still.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Dr.
Thank you very much.
Sunday Oluyemi is a research, economic, and banking analyst there, breaking it down for us, issues around debt and, of course, how it affects Nigeria's economy. I must thank you for your time. Do enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you again on the show soon.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye. Bye-bye.